Hello once again, fine fellow nerds of the internet. Welcome back to the Film Loft. It is going to probably be a busy month for me, so there's quite a few to get through. But first up on the docket is a sort of sequel, I guess, to one of the greatest and most legendary animated films of all time. No, it's not Across the Spider-Verse. I'm sorry, it's not. It's Transformers. Let's get into it! So Transformers: Rise of the Beasts is a sequel to the Bumblebee movie that came out a few years ago, but as far as I can tell, isn't directly in continuity with the previous Michael Bay series of Transformers films that have come out, even though it's sort of tied in with them. Basically, I'm of the opinion that the Bumblebee movie started off a new continuity that all kind of takes place before the Transformers movies that were out before that. So this is kind of a whole brand new thing that is earlier than those. But Drew, I'm hearing you say, why are you doing Transformers: Rise of the Beasts and not Across the Spider-Verse, which is a significantly better film? I am very much in the same boat as that line of thought, trust me. Something that I don't talk about a lot on videos is that when I go to see these big Marvel films, I generally like to take my brother with me because we like to sort of dissect the film afterwards. I like to see these films with people that I know are going to get the enjoyment out of it that I will, that we can kind of geek out about it together with. And he went on holiday the day that film came out, so here I am seeing Transformers: Rise of the Beast all on my damn self. And so I've ended up seeing Transformers before I've had a chance to see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I'm significantly more excited about, but hey. So the plot of Transformers: Rise of the Beast is relatively straightforward. It kind of is very similar to a lot of the other Transformers films that have come before. It's very MacGuffin-centric. So there is a transwarp key that was developed on a planet much like Cybertron, where the Maximals resided. Now, this transwarp key opens up portals through space and time to allow travel between different planets. Now, it also means that the planet-eating Cybertronian monster named Unicron is headed towards Earth, where the two pieces of this key reside, and it's down to the Transformers to team up with the Maximals that have resided on Earth for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years at this point, because, confusingly, the Maximals are also from the Transformers' future and past simultaneously, but that isn't actually really explained in the film. It's touched on it because Optimus Primal is named after Optimus Prime, who to him and the Maximals on their planet is this legendary leader, this force for good, this basically like legendary leader, warrior of Cybertron, and so he was named after him. But they also use the transwarp key and I guess travel through time also and wind up on Earth, but centuries ago. But they have to stop the Terracons from getting it to open up a portal to allow Unicron through and eat Earth. Part of me is quite excited about Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, mainly because when I was a kid, Beast Wars was my absolute jam. I was not really that into Transformers before or after Beast Wars. Like, the notion of Transformers existed to me, and the notion of Transformers was kind of cool. But the second that you mix in animals and dinosaurs that can also transform into robots, and after season 2 could also sort of transform into beast vehicles as well. Because if there's one thing that's cooler than dinosaurs and cool animals like cheetahs and gorillas and falcons, it's the fact that they can also turn into really cool robots that have animal traits to them as well. The Megatron in Beast Wars fired a laser out of the T-Rex head. Like, that's really cool. But anyway, as with most Transformers films, my issue comes from the fact that they build up this really cool aspect of Transformers lore that they are building into the film, and it's there for part of it, not really touched upon. You build up to something in the third act, and it's over, like, all too quickly. Like, there was no mention of Predacons other than one of the symbols on Scourge's arm that he takes off of his victims and puts on himself, like, as a victory trophy. One of the symbols was a Predacon symbol, which gives me the impression that maybe the reason that there's no Predacons or Predacon version of Megatron in this film is that maybe Scourge already killed them. Which would be a convenient use of the plot there. It would definitely be a good sort of explanation away of that, but never really touched on it, never really mentioned. Now, like I said, as far as the plot goes, it's very MacGuffin based, it's very much a series of kind of fetch quests that result in a laser portal sky beam being erupted out to make a portal that then kind of has to be destroyed in order to preserve life on Earth. It's very, very sort of retreading similar ground as before. Now, if that was just a sort of use of story in order to drive forward characters and character arc and character development and relationships between them all, that would be one thing. Unfortunately, the way that Bumblebee thrived on there being a character relationship development and the human aspect in a Transformers film was, for the first time ever, not a subplot that didn't really go anywhere. Bumblebee actually focused on the human-transformer relationship and did it really well. Transformers Rise of the Beast is kind of just sort of similar territory. So Noah Diaz, who is the main sort of human focal point of this film that drives the plot, has a little bit of a character arc and kind of goes somewhere with it, but I found it hard to figure why he was in the position that he was in. And also the fact that even though this is set in 1994, other than a few small tech things that they use or don't have access to, as it were, there is literally nothing in this film that dates it as being in 1994. Like, there was really nothing that got referenced a whole heap, or if it was in 1994 that they didn't have access to certain technologies that would make things a lot easier. No, apparently all of the research that can be done on the internet, it can still be done in 1994, but just through some different means. Nothing of that being in 1994 actually hindered them at any point, which was odd. Now, even though Transformers Rise of the Beasts was missing some of the aspects that made Bumblebee stand out as far as the relationships and characters go, it did still have an element of the look of the, like, original Gen 1 Transformers, which is something that fans have really been after for quite some time. Just the look and the style of having live action Generation 1 looking Transformers. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that actually, you know, having RC as a character, even though she doesn't get a whole heap of screen time, much like some of the Maximals as well. I don't even think Rhinox actually spoke in the film. I think that it was Optimus Primal, Cheetor, Rhinox, and Air Razor who were the main Maximals out of Beast Wars that got involved. And out of all of those, Optimus Primal and Air Razor were the only ones that had significant amounts of lines to say. And it's sort of like, you have all these other ones involved, and you don't actually see them in their robot forms for longer than maybe a few minutes. It's very odd. Now, is this a great Transformers movie? Maybe not really. Is it better than some of the other ones that we've had before? I would say yes. I would say that actually, even though this isn't as good as Bumblebee was, it's still better than the sequels to the original Michael Bay Transformers movie that we have had so far. So in that aspect, I still think it's doing better than most Transformers films have done, even though it's still not as good as it probably could have been. I definitely think they could have trimmed down the fetch quest aspect of the film in place of having more relationships between the characters that are meaningful and more screen time of the Maximals that maybe weren't used as much in this. I don't know. Now, I'm not going to do a whole other spoiler review video for this film. I'm not going to go into like everything that was covered that could be setting up other things, but there are a couple of big spoiler things that I am going to talk about now. So if you don't want spoilers, this is the part to sort of skip towards the end where I'm actually going to give my overall rating of the film. But as far as spoilers go, there are a couple of things that I wanted to mention and talk about as far as maybe continuity and what the rules of this universe are, and the rules of what can and can't kill and or bring back a Transformer actually are, because about a third of the way into this film, Bumblebee gets killed, and then by the end of the film has been revived again through just this energy pulse that activates Energon hidden in the earth that somehow revive. And it's like, what are the rules? Do you want characters to die and change the status quo, or are you just not worried about what people's reactions are to a death being had early on and then sort of not being touched upon again until the end? Like, what are the rules? Now, obviously, that does mean that a couple of other characters also die, but aren't revived by the end of the film because, I don't know, they got killed off in a different fashion? I don't know. And there is also this bit at the end where there's this significant moment between Noah Diaz and Mirage where they sort of do manage a way of teaming up together, and it results in kind of this Iron Man-esque type suit. And it's funny because watching it, I did think, this kind of reminds me of the power suits that they had in the first G.I. Joe movie. Well, funny you should say that, said the filmmakers, because the very last scene of this film gives the impression that the Transformers universe does tie directly into G.I. Joe. Because obviously they're both owned by Hasbro, and both of the TV shows were basically half-hour-long adverts for the Toy Rangers. They were both used in the exact same way for different toy lines that both of them were owned by Hasbro. Why not tie Transformers into G.I. Joe? Why not have them exist in the same universe? So I don't know if the idea is that the next film is going to be a crossover between Transformers and G.I. Joe, or if a new version of G.I. Joe is spinning off out of Transformers in a way that Hobbs and Shaw is a spin-off of Fast and Furious, or whether this is sort of starting off a new era of G.I. Joe that's going to be its own thing, and then we'll circle back round and eventually there will be a crossing over of Transformers and G.I. Joe later down the line after they've each done some more things, but have established they both exist, both at the same time, both in the same universe. But I just find it funny that in that scene where Noah Diaz is having this job interview and the guy that's doing the interview mysteriously knows all about him and what he's been doing and the Transformers and everything, and he pushes a plaque and the wall opens up, and it's just this empty warehouse with nothing in it, like maybe a jet. There's nothing identifiable about it. It could have been literally anything until he turns the card over and it says G.I. Joe on the back. That could have been literally leading into anything. Ultimately, for all of the similarities that this film shares with the previous Transformers iterations as far as a relatively empty and straightforward plot goes, it was still enjoyable. There were some aspects that set it apart from other ones that made it different enough that you could enjoy it while it was happening. So with that in mind, Transformers Rise of the Beasts gets 2.5 stars from me. I'm going to give it an extra half a star to make it 2.5, purely because, like I said, Beast Wars was my absolute jam, and I never actually thought that they would introduce the Beast Wars line into the main Transformers universe. I would love to see an actual full Beast Wars movie happen that is just the Maximals and the Predacons set before all of this, after they all landed on Earth. That would be something really cool. Like, sure, do the other spin-off that you obviously alluded to already, but why not spin this one off as well? Make a multi-threaded universe. Why not? Everyone else seems to be doing it. Plus, I do have to say the voice cast in this film was quite surprising. I didn't expect Ron Perlman to be voicing Optimus Primal, which was quite exciting, actually. I also think that as part of my rating, what I'm also going to start doing is, along with my rating, saying whether or not it's worth seeing in the cinema, because I realise that at the moment, costs of living quite high, going to the cinema, a little bit of a luxury, maybe not something people can do a lot of all the time, especially with the amount of summer blockbusters and films coming out and franchises that people want to keep up with. So, is Transformers Rise of the Beasts worth seeing in the cinema? Ultimately, I'm probably going to say no. Just wait to catch this until you can watch it in the comfort of your own home, because I think that you're probably going to enjoy this a lot more, especially in the slower parts where you can kind of check your phone a little bit, maybe, you know, go through your emails until they sort of make their way onto the next significant part of the film, where it's all just sort of like, oh, plot device, oh, okay, here we go, now we've got some Transformers action again. But Transformers Rise of the Beast, have you seen it? What did you think about it? What was your favourite character out of this film? Were you as into Beast Wars as I was? And what would you like to see from the future of this franchise? All comments are welcome in the comments section below. Let's talk nerdy. As always, if you've enjoyed what you've seen here and you would like to see some more, you can click right here to subscribe and see some more funky fresh videos from yours truly. And until that point, I just want it on record as saying that they did my boy Cheetor dirty in this film. He is my boy, and I will defend him on this level no matter what the cost. He deserved better. Give him more personality and more lines next time. Let's see some more of him.